Hello everybody. In this lecture we are going to have a look at run levels. Now you know that once we boot up the system, a Linux machine, then the very first process that gets started is init, in case we are using system 5, or if we are using Ubuntu then it's upstart. And if we are using Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7, then the process is system D. Now since these all are the very first process that gets started, so their process ID is 1. We have also seen that in case of system V, there is file in etc init tab. In case of upstart, we need to look into directory etc and init, and from there we have got startup scripts. And in case of system D, the configuration files and scripts are in etc and then system D and then system folder. So once any of these initial processes get started, they call for other processes, like maybe to start an Apache, or maybe start SSH service, maybe Telnet service, maybe FTP service, maybe firewall services, or maybe start a GUI. Now all these services are associated with a run level, and run levels are in Linux legacy, they start from 0 and go up till 6. So it's like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 2 is not normally used, although we will talk about 2 in terms of when we are talking about Ubuntu, but let's just stick with legacy system of run levels in case of Linux. So 0 means that it's halt or power off. So I put in power off. 1 means that the run level that we are in at the moment is in single user mode. So single user mode. 2 is not normally used. 3 is for multi-user. And by multi-user I mean that many users can log in into the system at the same time. In case of single user, normally root user gets logged in and do his or her stuff. Then 4, normally this is also not very much used. Then 5, it is multi-user again, so multi-user but with addition of GUI. So once you have installed the GUI based Linux operating system, then the mode that you get logged into once you get that GUI screen, that is in run level 5. And the 6th one is reboot. Now if let's say we are at a certain run level, let's say we are at GUI, and we want that our system should be shifted to, we want to turn off the GUI and we want to restart the system in, let's say, multi-user mode or multi-user run level without GUI. So we can do that by typing in the command tel init, T-E-L-I-N-I-T, and then space and then the run level that we want it to boot into, for example run level 3. Now there is another command which is init3, which does the same purpose as telnet3, but this is not the recommended way to use it. The command that you should use is telnet3 to boot your system into run level 3, and that would also mean that it would only start the services that need multi-user with networking plus networking support, without the services that are only specific and related with GUI. Now if we are working with init, which is for older versions of Linux, then these are the run levels. But if we are working with, let's say, Ubuntu, then Ubuntu does not differentiate between run level 2, 3, 4 and 5. So these are treated the same in terms of Ubuntu, and they are all multi-user plus GUI, provided GUI is installed. So if you open up your Ubuntu terminal and you've got GUI interface and you type in the command which is run level, you would see that it will display you a value of 2, which means that it is in run level 2, although by virtue of legacy system of run levels, 2 is normally not used. In case we are using system D or enterprise Linux 7, then there is no concept of run levels, although they are there, but they are not called by their numbers, but by the system D target values. And in that case, 0 is called as power off. So let me just change the color and let me encircle it, that now we are talking about system D, which is denoted by blue color. So 0 is power off, there is no 1, there is 2, or pardon me, there is no 2, 1 is single user, and this is called as rescue. So 1 is called as rescue if we are talking about system D. 3 is multi-user, so 3 is the same, multi-user. There is no 4. 5 is graphical, and of course multi-user. And 6 is reboot. So if we are talking about system D, we will not be referring run levels in shape of numbers, rather in terms of these values. Now another thing is that before we head over to the terminal and see some of the run levels, is that once you issue this command telinit3 and you boot the system into a separate run level or a different run level, then it does not mean that each and every time you boot up your system, it will fall into this run level. This command is just one time only. It will reboot the system once you issue this command and press enter. It will reboot the system and bring your system into whatever run level you have defined here. But after you get out of that run level, or maybe type exit or maybe reboot, then your system will get back to the default run levels that are defined in either of these initialization systems. Now, if you are talking about init system or system 5 based initialization process, then the file that you will be editing to make this run level change permanent is etc init tab, and in that file there will be an entry which will look like id full colon, then run level over here. It could be anything like maybe 3, 4, 3 or 5 or maybe 1, and then afterwards it would say init default and double colon. Now if you want to change the run level, you would simply put in the number over here, whatever number you want that system to be the default run level. So now let's head over to the terminal and see some of the run levels and their associated services. Alright, so here we are at, first of all, we are going to see how we can do that in change the run level in Ubuntu. And there is a bug in Ubuntu and it has been reported as well, and that is that if we try to boot this Linux or this Ubuntu machine into single user mode or in run level 1 specifically, because you see 2, 3, 4 and 5, they all mean the same. So either we can do away with 6, which means restart, or we can get into single user mode. Now if we try to get this Ubuntu into single user mode, then what happens is that it kinds of hangs up. Now in order to change that behavior or to bypass that bug, you need to make a small change in the grub configuration file. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to edit that configuration file, which is in etc, then default, and then grub. And over here, if you come down over here all the way, then remove this splash option. This is the one that creates the problem, and just leave this quiet. So this one is removed. I save the file, get out of here, and now we need to update the grub as well. So I type in sudo update grub and press enter, and once the entries get updated, now I can issue the command sudo telnet and 1. Now once we do that, we see that we have got this black and white screen, and once all the processes that relate to that particular run level, they get terminated, and run level 3 related processes, they are there, we'll have this prompt. So we are here at the prompt, and if I type in, let's say, a run level to see which run level we are in at the moment, we see that it is showing us S, capital S, which means that we are in single user mode. Now we can simply reboot the machine from here, or if we want to go back to run level 2, we can type in sudo, or since we are already in root, so we not need to type sudo. I can simply type in telnet and then the run level that we want to get into, which is 2. So I press enter, and we should get the graphical screen now, which we do. So now I enter my password and log back into the level 2 or GUI session of Ubuntu system. Now we can also see the boot messages once we boot the system by using the command dmessage. And over here, these are the time prints which are not human readable. So I can use the switch which is -t, and now the information will be shown in human readable time stamped messages. And this information is really informative if you are doing debugging, that whether your RAM is working fine, your system came up all right. For example, over here I'm seeing these interfaces, that what is the status of that. If something goes wrong, you would definitely see some very deep and kernel level debugging information regarding that particular process or device in this file, which can be accessed by dmessage. It stands for debug message, and these are the messages that are generated at the boot time by the kernel itself. Now, since Ubuntu does not work with init process and does not work with system 5, rather it works by upstart, but it has got some backward compatibility with init as well. So if we come into etc folder and we try to, let's say, find file which is init tab, which is specifically associated with the init process, we see that there is no file by the name of init tab in there. But if we have a look at the contents of this etc folder, we see that we have got some directories which are specifically for init process, which are rc0.d 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, specifically related to all the run levels. But if I look at the contents of this, let's say rc2.d, so I type in ls-l and rc2.d, we see that we have got these symbolic links pointing to the particular directories which are init.d, and similarly, so we see that many of these files, they are just pointers in this particular run level directory, and they are pointing into init.d, which is again related to system 5 init level. But if we look into the contents of this init.d directory, let's just try to do that. Let's do ls-l and then etc. All right, we are already in etc, so let's just type in init.d and do a long listing of this directory. Now if I do that, then let's have a look at this, that many of the files in here in init.d directory, they are again pointing to this upstart job. So what I am trying to say over here is that these Ubuntu distributions, though they may seem like because of backward compatibility that they are using init process to start different run level jobs, but in fact they are not. They are just the links which in fact points towards the upstart in case of Ubuntu. And if you want to change the default run level of Ubuntu, since it will be using upstart, so the configuration file is in etc and then afterwards init, and in init the file is rc-sysconfig sysinit.conf. and if I bring it down, this is where you can change the default run levels. But since I am repeating again that since we are using Ubuntu, there is really no point in changing it to anything else, because 2, 3, 4 and 5, they relate to the same services and run level in case of Ubuntu. So now let's head over to Enterprise Linux 7 and specifically CentOS, and let's see how things look over there as far as these run levels are concerned. So here we are at CentOS box, and let's just get into terminal. And over here, first let's just type in what is our run level. So the command is run level, and it shows that since we have just rebooted the machine, so the run level is 5, or the graphical one. So if we want to change it to, let's say, run level 3, where it is multi-user and non-graphical, I can type in the command sudo and afterwards system controller, and let's also try this command get default, so that it shows the default run level that is set. We see that the current target is, or the current run level as in shape of system 5, it is run level 5, but in terms of system D, the value is graphical.target. So let's try to change this and bring the system into run level 3. Now I can type in the command sudo telnet 3, but on system D level operating systems, it is not recommended way, and the recommended way is sudo system controller and then isolate and then the target value, which is multi-user target. So I press enter and we will put into the non-graphical multi-user mode. So I can give in my credentials and log into the system, and from here let's try to go back into the graphical system by setting the target again, which is system controller and then isolate, and afterwards the target name, which was graphical.target. So I give in my password and will be put back right onto the graphical mode. So I put in my password over here, and we'll soon see the desktop, which is over here. Now if I come to the terminal again and I want to change this run level permanently, so the command would be sudo system controller, and afterwards, since we have seen the output of get default where it shows that what is the default current run level, I can change it to set default. So I can type in set default and afterwards whatever the run level I want to put in, for example multi-user target. And once I press enter, the default run level will be set as multi-target. Now if I want to see the status of services which are running at this run level, I can type in sudo system controller and then list unit and files, and over here it shows that the services which are enabled for this particular run level and they are running. So if I come over here, let's come down all the way, and maybe let's see the status of this network service. So I can type in sudo system controller and then status and then name of the service, which is network manager.service, and it gives us the detail of that service which is active and running for this current graphical target. Now if you want to change the status of that, we can do that by putting in, let's say, either stop or restart or start over here. So I can put in, let's say, stop to disable the network manager service, which it does. And if I show the status of that service one more time, we see that it is inactive. So that's all there is to it. Now you know that what are the run levels and how they are defined in different distributions, and how we can change into different run levels at runtime or make those changes permanent. And we have also seen that how some of the services that we can see and what are the associated run level against those services, and how we can change the run level for that service. I hope you have learned from this video, and I would like to thank you for viewing.